Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we got ourselves a track from an act named Relentless Pursuit titled Self Ate the Devil. And if we switch over to here, we got ourselves a track on YouTube with the video on the screen, the official visualizer. Apparently this is from the official remake album Through Confusion Reimagined, the remake of the first album called Through Confusion. So it's good to be checking out more of Relentless Pursuit's music. This isn't the first time I've heard this stuff. Be good to check out more. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. I should also note that I'm going to be providing an overall score for this track out of 10 based on various musical criteria at the end, but for now, let's do it. Self Ate the Devil. Oh, some synth sequences and keys. It's just low and dumb to it. It is relentless of those double kicks. Very low and high contrast. I like the sound of the guitars and drums together. And the vocals, the clean ones, sounded kind of pretty in the mix. Kind of a mixture of synth and keys here, eh? I like the mix.
I won't run and I won't hide from you.
I dig the individual textures and timbres within this track. We're going to talk about it more though in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Relentless Pursuit titled Self Ate the Devil off of the Through Confusion Reimagined remake album. In this section I'm going to provide an overall song analysis for everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. I should also note that I gave this track an overall score 7.3 out of 10 based here on the screen here based on various music criteria. So I feel like there's stuff to appreciate about this track. We're going to talk about it more in a minute, but before we go any further, what do we think this track is about? When he says I won't run and I won't hide at the end, because I didn't necessarily get a lot of the lyrics through cleanly in this track. Some of it, like, I liked the individual vocal textures and timbres, don't get me wrong. I thought the growls and more sort of aggressive stuff sounded dope, especially with the guitar, bass and drums there, and it was an interesting contrast with some of those keys and synths we had. It was just that I only got a few of the words clearly in the cleans, and it's like self-hate the devil. I just don't know what that means, self-hate the devil. Maybe there's like a responsibility of what we've got to accomplish, and we can't run away from our sort of like darkness, and we've got to sort of be kind of saved with it, but to sort of present ourselves properly. I think there just might be a bit going on in this. I don't feel confident understanding it on a first listen. I might need to listen through it again outside of this review. But ultimately, I got enough from the title and the subject matter to kind of get it, I think. And so ultimately, if I kind of move past my kind of confusion with that to talking about the vocals themselves, I do think that the clean vocals we have at the end especially sound really pretty. They're a little bit quieter in the mix in those like chorus sections or hook lines, but that's okay because I think we kind of wanted everything to be kind of in your face there. The growled vocals are nicely compressed and EQ'd, and they sounded crisp and clean in there. Like it's a style that I recognize from a lot of the metalcore that I listened through in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. It's cool. I think some of the reverb tails that we have on the vocals and that end part also sound really pretty, genuinely as well. Like the double tracking, other bits of nuance there are good. And we have some interesting harmonies around the 2:04 mark there, where we kind of go in upper and lower ranges, and we navigate those notes seamlessly. It's just hard to make out all the words, but ultimately still we hit the notes cleanly and neatly in the way we need to in order to sort of like work well with those chord progressions and the rhythm guitars elsewise, as well as the keys and everything else going on. So ultimately, I think it's good for the most part. I like the sound of it. Outside of the vocals and the lyrics, I think we have ourselves 3 minutes 44 of just really well articulated music. There's a lot of fun ideas going on there. You have the arpeggiated piano parts at the start there on the left hand, in the middle of the keys there, just kind of like dancing around like kind of quietly there. And you have those kind of synth sequences as well, kind of buzzing with a bit of low in there to kind of make it seem a bit ominous or like epic. It kind of pokes at you in the eardrums a little bit. Some interesting panning decisions with that sequencer there. But we kind of go away from that into the next part and have those relentless, excuse the pun, those double kicks there. The speed of them with the snares and crashes and everything like that is awesome. We have some other tomfillish kind of beats there which are a bit slower, but we are just absolutely unforgiving in terms of how we approach the speed and ferocity and velocity of those bass patterns. And I kind of like it. It's almost like as well with the way those guitar riffs, they don't necessarily match the same meter of the drum beats. We almost become sort of polymetric there, or polyrhythmic there, and I kind of like that we're playing around with that and not having things totally locked in. It almost seems like two things slowly tearing away from each other. When the vocals come in around that 30-40 second mark there, their kind of visceral nature to the fry there suits neatly with the distorted parts. You can hear the melodies cleanly, and I think that it's effective. As the piano becomes a bit more active in certain parts, so you get that necessarily coloration on top of the rhythm guitars, the distorted power chords and sort of tremolo picked elements, and it's a nice bit of coloration there. The reverb tails make it seem a bit more sort of like ethereal and mystical, which is like an interesting combination there. I think for the most part they amalgamate neatly, but I feel like some of the tightest parts are when we have the chugginess of those guitars and drums and bass and vocals and the side chaining and them together. But I do like the fact that we are still nonetheless incorporating some of those pads and those piano elements there to add a bit of magic and grace to the piece. And as we go into that 1 minute 30 second mark with absolutely filthy sounding really quick double kicks and sort of chugged parts there, it's ruthless. It really is. It's absolutely, it's just brutal, dude. And so I suppose when we get into that 2 minute mark there, it makes total sense for us to kind of step away from that a little bit and kind of move into the point where it's more kind of oriented around having like a cleaner kind of melody and overall harmony to it, because it already had so much heaviness before that. And I think that ultimately we slow down the drums a bit as well to kind of allow more of a focus on the vocals there. But we don't stay on that for longer than 30 seconds. We go back to the grind after that, and it's furious. At that 3:10 mark, then we suddenly have the synth keys, the kind of nice meld of the two. It's very dreamy sounding and very sort of peaceful, and it's almost like we've been raging against what we feel like we have to do, almost like we're kind of very sort of resistant to it. And then eventually, again, we say we won't run, we won't hide, etc. And we kind of almost sort of like allow ourselves to feel a sense of grace in that. That's a very sort of like interesting way to finish the track because it's unexpected. You have the keys and some of those other synthy key ideas there, but that could just be simply a part of the metal, you know? For us to fully commit to that softer finish is just kind of neat. So structurally quite effective. Ultimately, I think there's a lot of fun ideas going on with the different sort of like the drum chops with a mixture of sort of fills there in the 16s and 30 are just brutal. The bass underneath it's nice and tight and low and typically resolve into the root notes. And then either the sort of like pad elements or the piano parts, they either articulate certain triads or chords within the progression or kind of go outside and play some interesting interval ideas and almost kind of balladesque complex. So, you know, well done. I like it. You know, it's quite well filled. Thematically, the track is minor leaning, but then it goes into a major part near the end there. And I like the fact that we're able to sort of incorporate a different sense of emotion dependent on what we're discussing there. Things are far more straightforward when it does go into the major orient there, which means we've probably made our decision there. And if that is indicative, or if that is the case, then congratulations, the song's clearly communicated that, you know, quite effectively. I like some of the kind of minor Phrygians and the other sort of minor-esque kind of scale choices, note choices there, as well as some of the chugged kind of flat seconds and other mild chromatics occasionally. It's just good to also have most of it in the diatonic though, so it isn't too like alienating to people who might not be as familiar with it or the style of music, you know. Studio recording, mixing and mastering though across the board is good. Again, I didn't necessarily get the vocals clearly, like the clean vocal harmonies and those like 2-minute parts there. The growls were nicely sort of EQ'd and compressed and filtered. The guitars kind of sounded like in there and center the stereo field there, but it also just simply because that we were wanting more room for the piano or something like that. The pianos potentially, you know, like the pianos sound good. I like the way they're leveled. They could have maybe used a little bit less reverb, but then that piano style suited the end of the track, so that was fine. And then the pads and everything else were great. The kicks kind of like cut into the mix neatly. Great use of side tuning. There was dynamic range to this, which I really appreciate. And in general, the leveling was pretty good. I think there were just these, we had the sounds leveled and it was spread around the stereo field in interesting ways. It's just that we had some sort of like textures there that once you got used to them made sense, we just kind of needed to finesse them for the early part. Nice and loud bus compression limiting is handled there. No real applicable constructive critique though. Really happy to be listening to more of this music. They're doing a good job, and from a final general listener's perspective, it's just nice and heavy, and I just kind of dig the way that ended, that twist at the end. I like the fact that it was almost a sense of ambiguity about it, but at the end you could kind of put things together and enjoy your time in the process. That confusion is potentially something that was deliberate within the music as well, so I like that. I think that's cool. Anyways, I wish everyone involved the best future with their musical endeavors, including with the launch of the Through Confusion Reimagined album, because thank you for watching my review of this track from Relentless Pursuit titled Self Hate the Devil. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via the various social medias, including Spotify, Bandcamp, and Apple Music, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands Out.